Hi guys, welcome to the tutorial. In this one we are looking at the functional language that we can use in order to express or justify your position or your decision in a business context. This is really important because as a manager, as a leader, you are going to have to clearly communicate your recommendations, your decisions, either to those who are working under you or those who are above you or stakeholders or whoever is disinterested in the decision that you made. You should be able to explain to them clearly and precisely what led you to that decision. So if you can do this by providing evidence for your decisions, supporting your decisions with evidence, with arguments that justify your position, then obviously that's a very powerful and important thing to be able to do. You always want to maintain polite, professional language, just like in any business situation. And again, if you can combine clear reasoning with high-level English vocabulary, you are enhancing your professional credibility. Okay, so one of the most common things we'll have to do is to express our opinions. So there are lots of ways we can do this. So you can just say, in my opinion, quite simply. But if you want to be more sophisticated, let's say, you can say, in my view, from my perspective. And if you use in my view, from my perspective, you are indicating that you understand that there may be other views and perspectives which are also valid. So you're not saying I'm definitely right. You're saying this is what I believe to be true. If you want to be a bit stronger than that, you can say things like, I strongly believe, or our analysis shows that, and that's given less room for arguments or other interpretations. If you want to make suggestions, then we can use the hedging language that we've come across in other places. It might be worth considering. Perhaps we could stick in a polite language that we can use when making suggestions. So when you explain your thinking, when you explain your decisions, you want to be able to explain the reasons for them. So you want to connect the evidence with the decisions you made. So when you vocabulary like because, since, due to, based on, as a result of our analysis, we have decided to invest in more staff for the next financial year, something like that. We should expand into Asia because market data shows steady growth. Based on last quarter's results, we need to adjust pricing. So because, based on, showing the logic in your reasoning why you're taking certain decisions based on which evidence. Business collocations that we'll find in this area are things like data-driven decisions, supporting evidence, business case, cost analysis, cost-benefit analysis that we saw previously. And this is the kind of evidence that you'll point to when you are explaining your decisions. To the extent you can, try to incorporate numbers, facts, and concrete examples to make your argument more convincing and credible. And obviously this helps build trust, this persuades when people can understand. You demonstrate to people the reasons why and the way you've reached the conclusions that you've reached based on what evidence. For justifying a recommendation, we have phrases like, the main reason for this approach is this strategy aligns with our long-term goals. We chose this option as it offers the best return on investment. So explaining why you made a choice. These are key techniques as well. Linking words, therefore, consequently, for this reason. Show the logical flow of your ideas and the strength of your arguments. If you can combine logical reasoning with your company's core values to make arguments and persuasive, then that will be very, very well received by whoever it is that you are talking to. And again, it's about building trust, it's about building credibility, helping stakeholders, whoever they may be, understand where your recommendations are coming from, which does not mean they have to agree with everything. But as long as you can lay out a logical case for why you think a certain way, then you're in pretty solid ground. Very important when we are proposing, when we're debating, when we're trying to choose the right way to go, that we can agree and disagree and partially agree diplomatically and politely. So for phrases like, for agreeing, we got phrases like, I completely agree, that's a valid point, I'm on board with that. If you want to partially agree, I see your point, but, or that's true to some extent, if you're not convinced by the argument that you're hearing or the ideas. I'm not entirely convinced. I'd like to challenge that assumption. Have we considered another option? So these are polite ways for agreeing. You don't need to be super polite when you agree with someone because they're happy you agree with them. But we definitely need to be polite when we are partially agreeing and especially when we're disagreeing. It's very important to maintain politeness and not just say, no, you're wrong. That's a stupid idea. Also very important to be able to handle questions and objections because you might disagree or only partially agree with someone, equally they can disagree or only partially agree with you. And they might have more questions to try to clarify your ideas and your position and why you have reached the decision that you have. So first of all, you got to recognize the question or objection respectfully. You got to demonstrate that you understand this is a valid question and a valid objection that is, is worth discussing. Make sure you clarify, provide clarification or additional information to address the concern or misunderstanding clearly and accurately. So, did the person misunderstand? In which case you might have to paraphrase things you said before, or are they searching for more information? In which case you're going to have to hopefully be in the position to provide that information. You strengthen your position by summarizing key evidence or rationale that support your argument or decision confidently. The sort of basic way that someone will structure their argument or the proposal in order to make it persuasive is they will share their idea, they will support their idea, and then they will explain how their idea will impact on this current situation, this current problem. So state your point. Begin by clearly expressing your main idea or recommendation. For example, we should increase our marketing budget. Support the idea. Provide evidence. Because engagement rates are falling. And then conclude with impact. This change could boost ROI by 20%. ROI, return on investment. So yeah, what's your idea? Where did your idea come from? And what's going to be the impact of your idea? If you have lots of different ideas, or you have many aspects of one idea, then you're going to use language like firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally, because, since, due to, as a result of, in conclusion. So you're linking your ideas into a sort of logical narrative that the people you're talking to will be able to follow your logic, follow your thinking as you move from your idea to supporting your idea to what is going to be the impact of your idea. So summing it up, very important to clearly express your opinions. Communicate your views confidently using precise language, the type of language we looked at in this tutorial and previously. Ensuring your message is understood without ambiguity or confrontation. Logical justification is also important. Support your decisions with solid reasoning, data, and relevant examples to build credibility and persuade effectively. As always, as we've been talking about all the way through the course, maintain that diplomatic tone. Adapt the strength and style of your language based on your audience, maintaining professionalism and respect in all interactions. Something for you guys to think about: consider a recent decision at work and practice explaining your reasoning in English. So whatever job you have and whatever type of business, you will make decisions. Maybe big, maybe small, maybe for yourself, maybe for others. If you had to think about where that decision came from, what's the underlying logic or reasoning behind that decision, and what is the impact of that decision, think for yourself. So walk through for yourself, okay, in English, how would I explain that? So we take it back here. What is the point of this decision? Why is this decision being made? Why are we doing these actions? What's the evidence behind it? What's the supporting evidence? What's the theory behind it? Or the compelling evidence behind it? And what's the impact of it? So for decisions that you make in your job, practice explaining them to yourself in English. Explaining, justifying, clarifying where these decisions come from and what they do. Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.